All right, do I have your permission to record?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So what is your name?
Dennis O'Keefe,
And what year were you born?
1941.
Where were you born?
I was born in Pittsburgh, in the west end of Pittsburgh, on Middletown Road. That road still exists, and it's still a nice place to still call my original home.
And who are your parents?
My parents are Joseph and Evelyn O'Keefe. And what else do you want?
Yeah, well, what were their jobs when you were growing up?
Oh, well, my dad was worked for Pittsburgh Railways, and so did my mom.
Oh, nice. Did they meet there?
Yes, yes. My dad was a mechanic, and he worked on the old streetcars.
Mm-hmm.
He used to work on the old coin machines where they walk in the streetcar and they put their money in. So my dad was part of his job at Pittsburgh Railways, and my mom, she got a job there because her dad, Thomas Martin. My mom's name was Evelyn Martin. Okay. And but her dad was blinded in an explosion. He was an engineer, and he was involved with the streetcar layout coming from Castle Shannon into Pittsburgh, and they were dynamiting, and he got a little too close, I guess, and he lost his eyesight. You're learning things you haven't learned.
Yes, yes I am.
So he was blinded, and he ended up moving out to California because they had seen eye dogs in California. His wife did not go with him to California.
Okay.
And but then there was a settlement on the explosion. In that settlement, he was offered a job for two of his children.
Okay.
Okay. And so he gave those jobs to Frank Martin and also to my mother, when she was just very young.
Yes.
So that's what took my mom to Pittsburgh Railways, and so my dad was doing the mechanical work with the coin machines, and my mom was there to take the money and count the money.
Oh, okay.
So that's how we met. That's how you're probably going back to 1920 with that.
And do you know about how old she was when she started working there?
Well, my guess would be 20, maybe.
Okay.
I'm guessing at that, but yeah, it wouldn't have been much older than that, but it had been in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And they were married in 1923, May 30th, on his birthday.
Wow.
They got married on my dad's birthday, May 30th.
Wow.
And I think the year was 1923, 1924.
And then where did they live after that?
Well, actually, on Middletown Road.
Okay, so immediately.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I had, as you know, they're deceased now, but I had 4 brothers. So when I was born, 1941, May 14th, 1941, and then we had Pearl Harbor come around, on December 2nd that same year.
Yeah.
And then my brother Reach, who was only 17 at the time, and my brother Joe, who was actually only 16 at the time. Well, they were separated by 18 months actually, and they went into World War II.
Wow.
And then I was very young. But even though I was very young, because there was so much going on in the house because of the war, and my 2 brothers being in the war,
right.
There was a ton of activity in the house. So I'm very vivid with my memory of the house, of all the things that went on during that time.
Yeah, what kind of activity?
Oh, well, back then, because we were the Steel City, so a lot of things were coming from here to support the war.
Right.
So they actually had blackouts.
Okay. Yeah.
And these blackouts were a prescribed time that things would happen. I was probably only 3 years old, maybe not even that. I have no idea. But it was required for everyone, because we were a major target for attack. Pittsburgh was.
Right.
So we had time periods where we had to make everything completely dark.
Okay.
so they couldn't spot us
Wow.
from the air. So I remember those vividly,
Yes.
you know. And also, you didn't have cell phones back then, so
Mm-hmm.
your kids are in the war, and you lose total track of how they are, what's going on.
Right.
And then when they did have casualties in the war,
Mm-hmm.
they had a man from the Defense Department, I guess, that had a special uniform he wore, I remember, and nobody ever wanted to see him show up on the street because he came to advise parents that their children had been killed.
Right.
And I remember that vividly. Right.
Yeah.
And just the hectic, you know, just being in the house where all this activity was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember my dad and mom always listening to the radio, the broadcast to try to catch up on what was going on with the war. So the war going on was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, so and my brother Reese went into the army, and he was in the infantry
Okay.
under Patton's. He was under Patton's command,
Mm-hmm.
and he really got involved in some tough stuff because of the infantry. He actually did the Battle of the Bulge, and that was a winter battle. It went on for several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in that battle, they were just never able to, you know, get out, you know.
Right.
And I know Reach had to be exposed to his friends being killed and not knowing whether he would get killed the next day.
Right.
So Reach came home, and he did okay. But he got married and had a family,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But later in his life, of course, they didn't have treatment for, you know, back then for coming home. So, but he did become depressed when he was in his early 40s,
Uh-huh.
and he committed suicide.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yes. Yes.
When he was 41 years old.
Mm-hmm.
If he had lived, his birthday was just this month, he would have been 100 years old
Wow.
this month.
Wow.
So that's Reach. Joe went into the Air Force.
Uh-huh.
He actually was on the airplanes, and he was a bomber.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know how long that went on, but he from there he went into radar,
Mm-hmm.
and on the ground work, and he was stationed in the Philippines. And so everything seemed to be good with that. So Reach had his difficulty. So when I was born,
Mm-hmm.
your grandfather,
Yes.
my brother,
Mm-hmm.
he was 12,
Okay.
and then your uncle Melvin, he was 6, and I had just started my life.
Yes.
Yeah. So and then we lived on Middletown Road until I was probably 6.
Okay.
And my dad had a 1939 Studebaker that I remember vividly, you know, riding in the car, and of course, Grandma, she was part of all this, as you know.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so we, well, my dad decided to buy a building, on Perrysville Avenue,
Okay.
an apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had that, so that's what took us out of Middletown Road. Because he had bought this apartment building, and then we moved to Perrysville Avenue, right across from Nativity Church.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't Nativity at that time, I think it's called Incarnation today.
Yes.
And I went to school there, you know, in my first, second, and part of my 3rd grade.
Okay. What do you remember about the school? What do you remember about the school?
The sisters,
Oh,
sisters
yes.
of St. Joseph,
Uh-huh.
and how strict they were,
Very strict, yeah.
and how I was always getting in some sort of trouble.
How come?
I don't know, I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
No, I just, I wasn't doing, I just seemed like I was always getting picked on, because, I don't know why. So maybe I was bad and I don't know it.
Would you wear uniforms to school?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, wore uniforms, and I remember one Christmas that we had to get up and sing a song, so I got up and I sang Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I memorized it. And back then, school was difficult because we had to memorize a lot of stuff. You know, like the alphabet. We had to memorize the multiplication tables.
Right.
And us people in that age group, we never, you know, 9 times 9 is 81.
Right.
You know, 6 times 7 is 42. So those multiplication tables were a source of a big study. And we anyway, that was, and I stayed there till I was 3rd grade.
Okay.
And my dad then took a notion that he wanted to buy a business. And we started scouting around for a business, or he did, and I just would ride around. And they found this little grocery store, meat market, and gas station for sale in Byer, Pennsylvania, which is in Indiana County, and 12 miles from Indiana, PA. Okay. So we moved there, and my dad at that time, he had changed jobs. He was working for Crucible Steel. I don't know what his job was at Crucible Steel, but he left that job to buy this business. So then it was me and my mom and my dad and Melvin. Uncle Melvin for you. And we all moved up to Byer, Pennsylvania in Indiana County, and then my dad started operating this business. So, and that probably would have been 1948.
Okay, how old were you approximately?
7.
Okay.
Yeah, 7, right. Yeah, 7 years old.
Yeah.
So that's where I ended up, and I was 7. And
you
then,
changed schools then?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I went to Plumville. It was everything was small there.
Yes.
You know, it wasn't a large population, but I actually, when we moved to Byer, and that's where I met Aunt Margie.
Really? How old were you?
8.
8? You met her when you were 8?
Yes.
Wow. How'd you meet her?
She was just one of the kids in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Because they lived just, I mean, from where we lived, I could see their house, and she was just one of the kids, you know.
So you went to school together?
Well, she was a year behind me.
Okay.
But yeah, so we met when I was 8 and she was 7, and we developed this childhood friendship, and we never dated anyone else.
Wow.
Yeah, so the childhood friendship went into dating whenever I was able to drive, 16.
Right.
But we always had this friendship as kids.
What would you do for fun when you were kids? What would you do for fun together when you were kids?
Well, we played Cowboys and Indians. We would make up games, yard games. I remember a game, there was a little stick that you would hit, and with another stick, and then you would hit it as far as you could. So whatever that was. But no, back in those days, we just made up games. Yeah. You know, and it was a lot of fun. So then your Aunt Margie and we started dating when I was able to drive at 16, and then we dated that way, and then we got engaged when I was we got married when I was 21 and she was 19. Okay. Yeah, so Margie was only 19 when we got married.
Wow.
And then of course we had your cousins.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so we had Joe, John, and Jeff, and in that time frame, I had done an associate's degree with Robert Morse in airline management, and I got hired by back then Mohawk Airlines in 1960, and then in 1964 probably I was taken into a 2-year management in-house training program for the airlines. And then in 1966, I was assigned my very first station to management. Wow. To manage. Yes. And that was on Long Island, MacArthur Airport, Islip. Okay. Yeah, and I said that when I was young. I was only 26 years old at that time, and so I worked there in Islip, and until I was to 1971, and they offered me a position in Chicago.
Okay.
At Midway.
Yes.
Midway, Chicago. We were opening that station up,
Uh-huh.
brand new. So then we all of us moved to Chicago.
Okay.
And I was in Chicago from 1971 to 1976. And also, there was a merger that took place between Mohawk and Allegheny Airlines, and I ended up at O'Hare, working at O'Hare.
Okay.
And then 1976, a management job opened up here in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I did that and I got it, and that's what brought us back into Pittsburgh. And then because I was on a little fast track within management,
Yes.
the upper levels of management had little different plans for me as far as keep continuing up, but I got tired of moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I just refused anything else that came my way in advancements.
Right.
So I spent 1976 to 1993
Okay.
working for Allegheny Airlines, but that became U.S. Airlines, U.S. Airways.
Okay.
And now U.S. Airways today is American Airlines.
Right.
So I'm still considered part of American Airlines today.
Okay.
So, and then in 1993, I was only 53 years old, and they offered me an early retirement.
Okay.
It was U.S. Air.
Yes.
And they allowed me to capture into my retirement, which was secure.
Yes.
And they allowed me to start collecting on my retirement as if I was just 65 years old.
Okay.
So also there was a lot of other benefits that came along with it, like I continue to, even today, I continue to have free lifetime flight benefits on American Airlines.
Wow.
Yeah, me and a companion. But right now I don't have a companion because Margie was my companion.
Yes.
So, and but anyway, it's what else?
So when you moved back to Pittsburgh, where did you stay in Pittsburgh?
Oh, where I live now.
Okay, so you immediately moved.
Yeah,
back to
1511. Coming back from Chicago to Pittsburgh, I bought the house that you're familiar with.
Yes.
1511 Sandhurst Drive in Franklin Park.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us about the house? Wasn't it built?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
It was it was a unique thing about the house, and your Aunt Margie loved it right away because it had that nice big front porch,
Right.
and she would spend a lot of time out there. So I miss her out there. As you know, she passed 3 years ago, but that was the attraction to the house for Margie, was that front porch. But it's an A-frame, it's very well. It has a lot of architecture to it. You've seen it.
Yes.
So it has it's a farmhouse, but it's a very unique smaller farmhouse. It's not like a big, So it's a good home for me today, and it's a good home for us bringing up the kids. And but it was built in 1923. Back then, it was called the Clover Hill Dairy.
Okay.
And you're probably familiar with the Clover Hill Golf Course.
Yes.
Well, that's where the name comes from.
Okay.
Because it was a 110-acre farm, I believe, and so all that whole area. And also it was built by William King.
Okay.
And that's why you have all the King streets.
That makes sense. Yes.
You have all these streets that are King Edward, King John, that comes from the builder of my house, Bill King.
Okay.
So that's where the Kings come from, and that's where Clover Hill comes from. So that's very prevalent in names in Franklin Park.
Yeah. And so where did your kids go to school?
Well, at the beginning, we went to the Catholic school in Perrysville.
Okay.
Anyway, I haven't thought about that church for a while, so it's not coming to me right this moment. But then eventually they all ended up in North Allegheny.
Okay, and they graduated from North Allegheny?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they all graduated from North Allegheny. And then Joe, the oldest, went on to, he graduated with a degree in mathematics and minor in engineering. He applied to the National Security Agency for work, and he was successful with that. And that involved a lot, because when you apply for those type of secure positions, so they come and they interview all the buddies. But anyway,
Right.
and then John was a chemical engineer, MBA.
Okay.
And he was very successful with shea butter, which is a product that goes into cosmetics. He developed a huge business, and he worked for a company in France.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Auvergne.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's now getting into an age where he's thinking about retiring. So he's not doing that anymore.
Yes.
And then Jeff is in Connecticut. He's a project manager for an architectural firm, and he's working on a big project right now in New York City. So sometimes they redo casinos and they have hotels. So it's a really big project he's working on right now. So that's what Jeff's involved. Now you have six grandkids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when did you become mayor first, and how did that?
I became mayor. I became interested in doing something. Well, actually, when I got the retirement from U.S. Air in 1993, I actually then started working for Lenzner Coach Lines.
Okay.
And I worked in that, and I was managing for them.
Okay.
And they asked me to take over one of the companies that they own. In 1990, I retired November 1st, 1993, and I started working for Lenzner November 1st, 1993.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I worked with them. I was managing their because I was airport connected. I was managing their airline business.
Okay.
Their airline business with their transportation.
Yes.
But then when September 11th happened, that business got really hurt, and a lot of the transportation businesses really got hurt.
Yes.
So Jamie Campolongo, who was the president of Yellow Cab, he became interested in purchasing up some of these companies, that were in bad situation because of September 11th. So it ended up that the company I was working for was one. So and Jamie ended up purchasing like 5 transportation companies, of which mine was one. And at that point, I ended up working for Jamie because I was part of the sale. I wasn't able to stay with Lenzner at that time because I went with the sale.
Right.
And that company became Pittsburgh Transportation Group.
Okay.
And I ended up working for them in management, and I think big. It was really big. I had like 150 people, I think.
Wow.
But I forget all those numbers. But and that's what I did until I was retired in 2000. Whenever I turned 65.
Yes.
I retired from all of that.
Okay.
But then Pittsburgh Transportation asked me to stay on as a consultant, and I did that for probably 3-4 years. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
And then I finally just got out of it. But when I retired from U.S. Air, when that was all over, that was probably 2001, 2000. But anyway, when I finally got out of all of that, then I started going to council meetings.
Okay.
And I wasn't too pleased with the infighting that was going on within the council. And I was at one of the meetings and I got really upset because of the infighting. And I got up and I told them exactly what I thought about how they were running their meetings and how upset I was as a resident of Franklin Park, and they didn't represent me well. Just so happened that the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette was there that night. I didn't know it. The next morning I have a half-page write-up.
Really?
Yeah. And that's kind of what launched my thinking about becoming mayor. So I ran for mayor in 2009, and I took my first assignment as mayor, or my first swearing in as mayor was in 2009. December, whatever the first Monday was in 2010, that's when I was sworn in as mayor. Okay. Judge Judy Olson, who I'm a good friend with, and she lives in Franklin Park. She was the one that swore me into office. Yeah. So now I've really enjoyed my job with mayor. You know, I'm in full charge of police, and I work with council on all the projects that come up. And so here I am, 15 years now as mayor of Franklin Park. So coming January, I'll have to make a decision whether I go for another term. I haven't made that decision yet.
Yes.
But it's still out there for me. I haven't made a decision.
So how has council changed since you became mayor?
Well, council's always changing, but it's always a good council. One thing nice about Franklin Park is that none of us are in it for the financial gain, because there is no financial gain.
Yes.
You know, we get a small stipend for just coming to meetings, but nothing substantial. So. But we have a lot of good mix within council with engineers and managers, and it works really, really well. So although council has changed through the years because of the elections changed things, nothing has changed as far as our desire to just do good work for the borough. We have no infighting. We get along really well, and we just discuss projects, and then we move forward. We have two official meetings a month. The first Wednesday of the month, we have what we call a work session. Of course, all meetings are open to the public by Zoom or coming or whatever. And then, in those work sessions, we just take the business at hand and thoroughly discuss. Like right now, we're working through a tree ordinance. We have the cell tower situation going on. So those work sessions are made that we can have conversation amongst ourselves, and that leads us to the third Wednesday of the month, when we have our open meeting where we do our motions and pass regulations,
Yeah. And how long have you worked with Mr. Parks?
How long did I work with Mr. Parks?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we've been friends, and so as far as being on council and working together, it's been. He was for about 10 years. I guess maybe 10 years. I don't know. But we've been friends, neighbors, and friends for a lot longer than that. Yeah, many years.
Yes.
With John and Iris.
So how did you find out about the mayor position? Was it in the paper? Is that?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Your grandfather did. You knew that.
Yes.
You're leading up to that.
Yes.
Yeah, my brother Bob, your grandfather, called me, and Nora was, your grandmother, Nora was a big instrument in that endeavor too. So they saw it in the paper, and they called me, and they were thinking it was a great position for me. So that's what led me to it.
Awesome.
Was your grandma and grandpa, my brother?
Yes.
Right.
And so what was built since you've been mayor? Was the fire station, when was that started?
Well, we had the old fire station, was built in the 40s.
Okay.
That didn't accommodate the equipment anymore. As time went on, the equipment got bigger, and we couldn't even get the equipment into the place. So we had to build a new one. So now we have the new. Back then, it was a fire hall.
Okay.
And they actually had weddings there, and had bingos, and did a lot of things. And they did that to raise money. But now, me and council, the volunteer fire people are just so, I never can thank them enough when I meet with them or talk to them, because they're out there at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, whatever they need to do. They carry a beeper, and they can be at a barbecue with their family, and all of a sudden they're out fighting a fire, and so I can never thank them enough. But we no longer, we felt that the fire people did enough for us, just doing all those things I just told you.
Right.
For them to have to go out and try to raise money, and besides that, things cost so much today. I mean, a piece of fire equipment can cost $350,000. You're never going to raise that kind of money with bingos and stuff. So we took that off of them, and we now support them from within borough. We had to meet with them to get everything together because they were independent of us, and they still are. But financially, we had to get together and know what we were doing.
Right.
So so now the new firehouse, and it's a firehouse, it's not a fire hall, because we don't do activities there anymore.
Yes.
It's strictly a firehouse, and that was built, I think it's been probably 8 years? I don't know, I can't remember exactly when. It was a $5.5 million project.
Okay.
Yeah. And so now you have the firehouse as you see it today.
And what's your favorite park in Franklin Park?
Well,
Hard question.
have you been to Lindbrook Park? So you see there's a little stone up there that kind of honors me, right? And so I guess I would have to say that's my favorite.
And how was that like put there? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, we got I think there was 190 some acres that was going to go for sale,
Okay.
and that could have developed into townhouses or whatever, but it could have been not so good for Franklin Park. So the Allegheny Land Trust was involved with that, and I got really involved with that as far as, and not only me, but council, but I was pretty instrumental in bringing a lot of money into that project.
Yes.
To secure that property. And John Lensner, I told you I worked for Lensner.
Yes.
John Lensner does not live in Franklin Park, he's in Ohio Township, but he became aware of my involvement with this. He made a very large contribution to it. And as a result of that, why we were able to buy that acreage, and it's sort of we're still working on getting it ready to go, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So then it was decided that they would erect that in honor of the Honorable Mayor, a recognition of the Honorable Mayor of Dennis O'Keefe. And
Yes.
and so then there's a new pavilion there that's actually
Okay.
named the O'Keefe Pavilion. You knew that?
Yes.
Yeah, you were there.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we're going to have trails, and it's going to. We haven't got things all set up yet, but that will be known as the Lensner Trails.
Okay.
Because of the Lensner family involvement and the money that they brought into that. So that's how that evolved. But of course, Blueberry is the big house, the big park for everything that goes on.
Right.
And then Acorn Park was pretty unknown at this point. You know of Acorn? Okay. So as you know, because you've been in council meetings,
Yes.
we've got some grant money coming in to do a lot of improvement there, and so that's in the process now. So we'll have Acorn Park added to our park system. It's always been there, but now it's going to be something that people really enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has Blueberry changed since you first moved to Franklin Park?
How much has Blueberry changed? Not much. You know, we're now looking at the equipment, because everything you have to make sure everything is good and safe.
Right.
So some of that equipment is getting a little older, so we have to think about how we finance some upgrades to Blueberry. I don't know. It's to me, as I'm thinking about it, it's pretty much looks the same now as it
Yes.
as it did then. So, but of course we've remodeled the activity center, and now we have an elevator that's taking it from downstairs to upstairs.
Right.
And of course the ballparks are beautiful. So we have a lot of work goes into we're very proud of the ballparks, and we have wonderful people that work for us in management of the parks, and so we're very fortunate to have good managers in all of our departments. Yeah.
So when you first moved to Franklin Park, was there a restaurant you specifically liked to go to? Is it still there?
Well, back when we first moved, well, we had the Franklin Inn.
Okay.
That was there in 1976.
Okay.
It wasn't near what it is today, but actually the structure is the same.
Okay.
But the amount of business that's been built there is amazing. You know, so yeah, the Franklin Inn was the restaurant back in 1976. Why? There really wasn't that much more.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So now you have all kinds of places you can go.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part about living in Franklin Park?
because Franklin Park's the best place to live in the country. No, we have wonderful police. When I first became mayor, we had I think 7 part-timers and maybe 8 full-timers. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
But both the chief and I at that time was not quite comfortable with part-time, so we decided to turn it into all full-time.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't lay anybody off. We just let it attrition out. So
Right.
so now we have 18 full-time officers. I have a wonderful chief, a lieutenant, and 3 sergeants, a detective, and then everybody else is out on the road, you know, doing other things. And we maintain a very safe community.
Yes.
And it's kind of a bedroom community, you know, and people love living here, or living in Franklin Park. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as you do.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so what do your friends say about Franklin Park?
Oh, they all love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Right, and I'm proud to be mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm proud to be mayor. And I'm proud that you served with me on junior council.
Yes. Yes.
You know, for this, you're still there.
Mm-hmm. So all the council meetings, were they still in the same building, the same room?
Yes, from the time that I've been mayor, everything's the same,
Okay.
as far as where we meet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And when did they start doing like the video Zoom systems?
Well, yeah, but basically, if you want to go back to COVID, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I would guess in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we were going through COVID and people weren't able to get out, and that's when we started talking mostly about it. Yeah, and of course, it's something now that it's just, you know, you have to keep everything transparent.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we do that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Anything else?
Do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Really? Well, I'm happy you're my niece.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, very good.